some soccer!
I can't do it. We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
5, 4, 3.
Watching my life passing right in front of my eyes. Hello, the story.
Hello.
Always boring.
Welcome to Open Wide for Some Soccer. My name is Seth Vertelny. Alongside me, Pablo Maurer, Thomas Floyd. As Javier in Dallas would say, it's Monday. Open wide.
Is that our new catchphrase?
I don't think so.
Shot down.
How's everybody feeling today? Seth, Thomas.
Good. I'm pretty psyched that we actually managed to do this 2 weeks in a row. It's been a long time since that actually happened.
I'm a little bummed out that we didn't record our 25-minute pre-show conversation about Donald Trump and release it as some sort of bonus feature.
Yeah, I mean, this happened last year when we had a very heated discussion about the Oscars and the movie Interstellar specifically. I don't know. Would anybody be interested in hearing us argue about Donald Trump and how much we like him?
Probably not. Yeah. Thomas, how are you doing?
I'm very excited to kick off any show on which the first item on the outline is the words "bore draw" in all caps.
There's really no other way to describe that game, and the all caps was very necessary with this particular game of soccer ball that we had to watch on Saturday.
It was not the finest display of soccer prowess I've seen in my days covering the beautiful game.
I got nothing. I almost fell asleep.
Actually, after Saturday, FIFA decided that the beautiful game is no longer valid as the nickname of soccer.
Yeah, I think we were... I mistakenly had... I thought the Galaxy were 0-2 for some reason because I forgot that they beat DC United, and Thomas jokingly said that victories against DC United actually only count for 2 points. So that's where we're at here, week 3. Heading into week 3, we're already talking about DC United not even really counting as an MLS team.
Yeah, but DC United is not pointless due to the aforementioned all caps bore draw that we...
I think they're right on the cusp of a playoff berth.
Solid 2-save performance, was it, from Travis Warha?
Right?
He had 3.
3 save, my bad.
I was counting, yeah.
I feel like he only got tested once, that row shot at the end there.
Yeah.
Did he get tested at all?
Yeah.
I mean, he made 3 saves.
I think the last shot was the only one that was really, no, he didn't.
Do we want to jump right into the Travis Warha discussion?
Well, he is yet
So
to...
why leave our viewers waiting? Let's get right to Travis Warha.
I know Travis's mother has been waiting patiently for us to discuss this.
Yes, she has. That was weird. Anyways.
Travis Warha has yet to concede a goal in his MLS career, guys.
Currently tied with Mike McGee and Eddie Gavin as the greatest goalkeeper in MLS history, statistically speaking.
I mean,
he had that same nervous look, though, that he had last year in the 40 minutes that he played.
Right. I thought you were going to say as Mike McGee, and then I remembered during that game, Mike McGee was absurdly confident.
Yeah, and he made didn't he make 4 or 5 saves? I mean, by the way, I'm ashamed to admit this, but I only found out about this year.
What?
The McGee thing,
man.
yeah.
I just remember McGee coming off his line and having several unconventional but effective claims of the ball. He would just reach over someone and bounce it to himself.
Yeah,
it was very unorthodox.
Yeah.
But
by the way, interject quickly here. We're obviously here to take your calls this evening, 347-756-6276. Also, you could just sort of pop us questions in the chat box on this YouTube stream. All 6 of you who are watching right now. So
we're up to 6.
Yeah.
I don't like that we can now see that.
Yeah, Trevor, is there a way to eliminate this viewer counter, please?
So Travis Wara, second year goalkeeper, undrafted last season, played one game, correct? Came off the bench when Dykstra got
Half a
hurt
game,
in Vancouver. And this was his first MLS start. And as we mentioned, he wasn't overly tested. The thing that stuck out to me was he didn't have to make a save until like the 60th minute, right?
Mhm.
And when he did, it was a shot. It was a hard shot right at him. They kind of spilled. And I was thinking, maybe he's still got the nerves. But after that, he calmed down, cleaned up the rebounds, did what he had to do.
I do feel like New England might be kicking themselves for not testing him more. I think they had opportunities to
We
shoot.
talked about this, man.
that
I
they
just
passed
thought they
out.
should have just put literally anytime you get the ball within 25 yards with that turf,
Yeah.
especially just start firing a goal. I mean,
Especially considering how much they controlled most of the play
yeah.
in the game. I mean, they had chances to test Wara, and the fact that it wasn't until halfway through the second half that they finally made him make a save, and when he did, he spilled a rather easy shot straight at him, kind of shows that they might have left a couple opportunities on the board to really test him.
Now, Travis Wara's future, I didn't really think about this until driving over here and contemplating storylines we might go over. He's basically playing for his job because when Bill Hamid returns, they're going to have 4 active goalkeepers on the roster. I doubt they're going to keep 4 active goalkeepers on the roster. Are they going to cut loose
One of them is-
Horton, who they just acquired and is an enticing U23 national team
One of them is going to
prospect?
Richmond, and the other one is getting euthanized. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the depth chart, I don't know if there's much of a viable scenario where Wara stays on the roster unless there's another injury or unless he really impresses in whatever limited opportunities he gets this spring.
Yeah, I feel like you said it. I think the only way that he stays with United is if he does get a couple more chances to start and really plays well and faces a number of shots, which we haven't really seen him do. I guess in that case, they could opt to keep him as third string and cut Dykstra loose.
Right.
yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do too with. So if you look at why Dykstra was held out with back spasms, that's the type of injury sometimes that becomes a recurring, recurring thing throughout the course of a year. So I don't think it's necessarily a done deal that they'd cut War loose.
Yeah.
Dykstra was also not. Was he 33?
30.
Yeah.
Oh, that young?
Yep.
Oh, okay, all right. Never mind then.
Yeah.
I played against him in high school.
Really?
I haven't told this story.
Oh Jesus! Hold.
I'll keep it quick. I played for
I mean,
Osborne, and he played for our vaunted cross-city rival, Osborne Park.
That's the story.
And I'll continue.
Yeah, keep it going. We don't
Okay.
have that much on the agenda for DC United.
The thing I remember was he. Thank you. He, I believe, hurt his wrist one season and played in the field against us in one of the games, and it was not a strong suit of his.
I mean, you would think that somebody who went on to be a professional goalkeeper would at least have the foot skills to be an effective field player at the high school level.
Not so. And I remember we had some of our fans, as if we had fans, like the 3 students who were friends of some of my teammates who showed up and heckled him mercilessly throughout the entire game.
Jesus Christ!
Thomas Floyd.
It's been a while since I've been able to rip one of those off.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So we've been talking quite a bit about the battle for third string goalkeeper. So
Let's move on.
I guess we should talk about something else, perhaps. Offensively, this was not United's finest game. They didn't really do much to test Bobby Shuttleworth in the goal for New England. A couple of guys that we were optimistic about in the early part of the season. I guess we're still in the early part of the season. In the CCL games into the first MLS game, Luciano Acosta, Nick DeLeon, I think they both kind of struggled in this one. I saw a stat, I believe Luciano Acosta completed 7 of 17 passes while he was on the field. He was yanked in, I believe, the 60th minute, somewhere around there.
I think it was the 62nd.
Nick DeLeon, again, we were encouraged by his display at center mid in the game at LA, despite the fact they lost 4-1. He had some moments. This game didn't really put it together. A lot of misplaced passes, just wasn't dangerous enough. Are we concerned about this duo?
I'm a little skeptical again of DeLeon being a perfect fit as a central midfielder. We talked about this a bit last week. Coming into the season, I wasn't sold on it just based on the appearances he had at that position over the past couple years. And then the performance against LA had me more on board with it. After this game, it was more of what we had seen in the disappointing games he had played there in the past. He just didn't get on the ball that much. There were a lot of times when DC was knocking the ball around the back, and there was a pocket of space where he could show for the ball and provide an outlet, and he just didn't. And that may have been part of the game plan. Maybe Benny said, look, concentrate on just having the back line dump the ball forward, and we can chase it and press and try to win the ball in the attacking third. But if there was an attempt to play much of a possession game, he wasn't contributing to it much. And then when he did get on the ball, as you said, there were a couple times where they would have a good movement and he would then misplace a pass out of bounds, and that's concerning.
One question I have about DeLeon as an attacking center midfielder is
Why?
Yeah, that's a question. Another question I have is, does he really have that cutting final ball in his game? I think a lot of times you see he's able to... I would tend to agree with Ben on that one. I think a lot of times you see he's able to recycle possession, move the ball around a little bit, but when the opportunity comes to play that final ball, that through ball, I don't know if he has that in his arsenal.
He's always been a guy who runs at defenders. That's how he creates chances in the final third. He hasn't really been the player throughout his career who picks out the final pass. So I'm inclined to agree with you that in that regard, he's not a great fit at the moment and needs to develop that skill set if he's going to continue.
Yeah.
Go home.
And Acosta...
Pablo has given up on contributing to the conversation and resorted entirely to the Ben Olsen soundboard.
Fine.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Oh, I'm on board with it. I normally don't like Pablo's analysis.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
It kind of kills two birds with one stone.
Yeah, we
Really.
didn't score. Nobody wants to hear that.
Off the record, I thought it was a joke.
Hug my children if they're still up.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
It's embarrassing.
Oh, thank you.
Go home. Son of a bitch.
Oh, really? Fucking Jamaican ref last night?
We haven't
He
even...
likes cat pee, zombies, and it takes over the rat's body.
Not this year they haven't. It's more of a craving. An endless longing that haunts me in the darkness of night.
We haven't even gotten into the...
Hey, DC United faithful.
to the Jurgen Klinsmann section of this yet.
Don't get me.
Good morning, everybody.
Oh, God.
It is what it is.
All right, this is
All right. The other guy I mentioned, Luciano Acosta, he
had that one play that was really nice.
But then this is a concern that I'm starting to have about him, is that he's a guy who's going to produce one or two moments that's going to get on the MLS mixtape every week, but is he really going to have that cutting edge in the final third and score goals and get assists? We haven't really seen that yet.
Yeah, throughout the 4 competitive matches and the couple preseason games that I streamed while half paying attention, he hasn't shown that yet. Can you remember any moments? The only real play
that Maradona turn, though.
I mean, that was pretty sick.
That I went from being really bored to having like a semi-chub instantly. I mean,
I think I yelled a lot by myself when he did that.
I'm intrigued. I'm going to training tomorrow. It's an open practice for reporters. And then for any DC United fans listening, Wednesday is an open training for everybody. If you're a fan and you want to come by and watch, it is open to the public. So PSA.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Even you're invited to that one. And I'm interested to see him just go through some finishing drills. I haven't had much of a chance to see what kind of shot he has, what kind of prowess he has, even if it's just within a drill. I'm curious to see if he has that in the skill set, because we just haven't had a chance to see it at all because he hasn't been able to put himself in those positions so far.
Yeah, and it brings up just a more general concern about the offense. It's obviously very early, but 2 goals in 4 games so far, counting the CCL games. You just wonder if it's potent enough right now and if it might require some more tinkering. Maybe throw Sabarillo in the mix a little more, see what kind of partnerships were.
Did you? I don't know if I was watching with Charlie Boehm, and both of us noticed the same thing, which is the first probably 10 minutes that Sabarillo was in the game, and he was only in the game for what, like 15, 20 minutes. He
got 30.
Yeah, I think
30 minutes. Okay, 30 minutes. He was finding the ball like 35 yards from goal on the near sideline, on the far sideline. Like, this is not where you want Sabarillo to have the ball, period.
But are you blaming Sabarillo for not providing the right kind of outlet, or do you think that's a system issue that he has to be doing that to get on the ball?
I mean, he's a target guy. He needs to be in the box, I mean, period. It's just not in his skill set. I mean, and then I did see a couple of people, I can't remember who today, sort of praising Sabarillo on his play, and I just thought he was, I don't know, you know me. I hate him. Not as a human being, just as a soccer player.
Well, speaking of which, we have a Twitter question from Amir. Do you think we need a new striker? Because so far, Spindola has looked disinterested and Sabarillo doesn't have it anymore.
I don't know if Fabi's
I mean, I think it's early. Yeah,
he's
been hurt, and but I will say that early indications have been pretty poor as far as his dynamic with Acosta, like we talked about. But I don't know who you get to rectify that. Well, I don't necessarily know that I mean, I think they might need help in midfield.
They do have a couple of guys who are versatile. They can play out wide or up top, in Rolf and Nagel. So potentially you could try. I mean, they've tried Nagel up there a couple times already, but you could potentially shift Rolf up there, maybe even.
I mean, I feel like Rolf and Espinola both have just been slow to have gotten off to slow starts this year. Neither has looked particularly like themselves. Both those players are typically dynamic, always showing for the ball, and I don't know, something just feels off,
I'd say the game against New England, the whole team was either in a bit of attacking funk or just playing going through a game plan where they weren't really looking to have a cohesive attack, where they said, look, we're on the road, we're on terrible artificial turf that's difficult to build attacks on, and we're just going to play ugly soccer in this game. So I'm interested to see what they do at home against the Rapids on a real field, and if that makes it better.
Against an opponent like Colorado.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think of
the Connor Doyle returns.
Yeah. I mean, when you think of must-see national TV matchups, Colorado at DCU has to be pretty high.
5 o'clock on a Sunday.
I was kind of wondering
Jesus
how that
Christ.
happened.
Yeah.
They really wanted to follow the Connor Doyle returns to DC storyline.
He got minutes last week, right? At the end of the game, he did.
I don't. Oh, was it at the very end? Because I know when they scored the winner during the highlight, he gets hugged by Sam Cronin.
Yeah. He was on the field at some point.
No, he's like in his penny and stuff.
All right. Never mind.
When little Marco scored the goal.
Yeah.
By the way, we decided as I don't want to say an homage to Trump because we're not paying him any kind of respect, but
as a reference
to Trump, we're just going to start calling Marco Papa Little Marco. Little Marco.
I mean, he's pretty short, right?
I don't know. We should look at his mugshot.
It would make more sense if he was really small. Wait, what?
He said he's really short. I said, I don't know. We should look at his mugshot.
Did you do that on purpose?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I don't know if he actually got arrested though, did he?
I don't think so. He was the one who got stabbed
By like a beauty pageant contestant and
by Miss Washington.
wow, not just
Yeah.
get it straight, Pablo.
Don't undersell this.
Yeah.
By a state beauty champion.
To finish the Connor Doyle point that everyone was excited about, I really enjoyed this. His main role was after they scored the winning goal, he was there to hug Sam Cronin, who wasn't even the goal scorer. Like everyone else was off celebrating, and for some reason, Sam Cronin jumped into Connor Doyle's arms and they embraced. And like the camera hung on it for a long time, and I was like, "All right, good job, Connor, contributing to the team."
The pillow.
All right, should we move on? Because
Let's move on.
I think
I've
there's
got
only
like,
so much.
I've got like another 20 minutes on Connor
Oh
Doyle.
my God.
So
Jesus Christ.
I think we've exhausted our DC United talk after that game.
Yeah. Anyways, let's move on to general MLS garbage.
Yeah. So
really sold that segment.
Well, this is not a podcast I would listen to.
yeah,
So
this is gonna be just as bad as that previous segment.
yeah.
So let's start with the undefeated teams. The 2-0 teams. The teams that have won their first two games. We've got Montreal, San Jose, Sporting KC. Which of these 2-0 teams do you think has the most staying power?
Montreal. They play in the East, which is more open, I think. I wouldn't say it's less competitive, but it's a conference where you have just fewer established contenders, I think. And they've been doing it without Didier Drogba. So you get him back in the fold. And I believe he's playing this weekend, right? Because they're on grass.
They said if everything goes well.
Right.
I think Piatti has been like a minor revelation out wide too.
Yeah, Piatti. Well, they've been toying with his positioning, which is kind of what makes him so dangerous. He'll be out wide one game, and then they'll put him underneath the striker in another, and put Harry Shipp out wide. So he's a dangerous player, and they have this attack now with him and Shipp and Ontivero, and then when you get Venegas in the picture. They're all guys who can play any of those three positions across the attacking midfield trio. So they're an entertaining team to watch, versatile on the attack, and then you add Drogba to the equation, and they're a team I don't think anyone wants to face in the East right now.
Yeah, they don't seem to have a lot of weaknesses. I think that they found
By the way, you said Venegas, and I, for some reason, immediately thought of Peter
Vallanas.
Or Viegas?
No. Former Galaxy
No,
and
there was a guy like 15 years ago named
Pete
Viegas.
Vagenas.
Yeah.
Is that how you say Vagenas?
I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce it, to be honest.
We don't need to get off track with Peter Vagenas. It's fine.
You got to be careful when pronouncing that last name too.
Yeah. Anyways. I agree about Montreal. I mean, I think Columbus is well, now I'm just thinking about the 0-2 teams,
Okay.
but
aside, the player I was referring to, Peter Viegas, played for DC United from 2002 to 2003.
We've reached the point in the show where Thomas is talking about players that only he remembers.
we're only moments away from like a 60-minute This American Lifestyle segment on Austin Deleuze, starring Thomas Floyd. Any Austin Deleuze memories, Thomas? Jesus Christ!
I wish you guys could have seen how Thomas's face lit up when
it's
Pablo asked.
fitting that I asked him about Austin Deleuze, the light, because the light just came over Thomas's face.
It's a very short story. I wrote a story on him shortly after they acquired him, and it was just a little story in the Times, and I called him up for it, and he sounded so shocked that anyone wanted to interview him. I think he even said it himself. It's just kind of like, why do you want to talk to me?
Anyways, yeah. So who else is 0?
He didn't last long in MLS, incidentally.
He was a first round pick, I think. I want to say he was in the top 10 or 15 or so. And poor guy.
San Jose's looked pretty good as well.
Yeah, they were
remiss if we didn't mention the the probable MLS goal of the year, by the way, which was scored in week 2.
Yeah, I feel like I have to give myself some props here. Not that this really means much, but I did pick them as my team to surprise in our Goal USA preseason picks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I went with NYCFC, so
did I.
I
mean, not in the goal preseason picks because I don't work for goal.com.
Right.
Who did you pick to win an MLS Cup?
Sounders, so that one's not off to a great start, but they'll get Roman Torres back. They'll sign another DP mid-season.
Right.
They'll get this together.
Yeah, but I think that,
How about you?
San Jose, I can't even remember.
So make a prediction right now.
San Jose.
Didn't you?
I went with Dallas.
I think you picked Dallas.
Yeah.
I know Seth's picks.
No, but I think that San Jose, they have a lot going for them in all areas of the field. I mean, I think that David Bingham has a chance to kind of establish himself as one of the best keepers in MLS this year. It was his first year as a starter last year. Looked pretty solid. Got himself a national team call-up. Goodson and Bernardez, even though they're both getting a little up there in age, still is one of the more solid center back duos you're going to find in the league. And I think a full season of Godoy and Alashe at center defensive midfield can be really effective for them. And then you just still have Wando being Wando.
And they have a lot of weapons available at their disposal for the wide midfield and forward positions, to the point where in the match yesterday they had 2 DPs on the bench as unused subs, Matias Perez Garcia and Innocent. And the fact that they have that kind of depth, that they can sit those guys on the bench and in their place go with Quincy Amarikwa, who scores the goal of the year probably, and Quintero and Simon Dawkins. Those are all good players who fit the system well. It's just a team that doesn't have a lot of huge names, but they're well constructed and they are learning how to play that Dom Kinnear style that's simple but effective.
And I think we're all praying that this is the year that Tommy Thompson finally does something.
Tom.
I like
Agreed.
Tommy Thompson.
Agreed.
I mean, at some point, people are going to stop freaking out on Twitter every time he gets introduced into a game. Like, he has to start doing something.
Not as long as Charles Boehm exists on this planet.
I
it's
swear,
not going to happen.
I swear, even Charlie's going to calm down if Tom can't start to produce a little bit more.
I pay a similar level of attention to Ship, Tom, and Thomas McNamara. All 3 of them I keep keen. I mean, McNamara, obviously, it's a little over the top at this point, but, you know... the 3 of them I have very keen eyes on, so I don't know.
I thought it was encouraging for Thompson that they brought him in as a deep-lying central midfielder to protect a lead. I think his issue over the last couple of years is that he was seen as a very situational player, that you would bring him in if you needed a goal, but you maybe wouldn't trust him to play in midfield on the defensive side. And it would appear he's developed that part of his game a bit and will be more of a viable option at different positions for San Jose.
Tom's still only 20. Let's not forget that, guys.
Why don't we talk about the 0-2 teams?
Yeah.
The real losers. And which ones are most surprising of the crop?
Yeah, I mean, you've got some of the teams that were being picked for MLS Cup all 0-2 right now. Of course, really doesn't mean a whole lot 2 weeks in, but still slightly surprising to see teams like Columbus and the Red Bulls and Vancouver and Seattle all without a point.
I think the real surprising one is probably Columbus. Losing on the road to the MLS Cup champion in week 1 is fine. You know, that's nothing to be ashamed of. But losing at home to the Union is not an ideal result. I blame the uniforms. They're now winless in those hideous Columbus flag jerseys. So that's my entire analysis. Do you guys have more?
I'm most shocked by New York. I think they just haven't shown up. Although I will say they sort of thoroughly outplayed TFC in their first match. And I think we were talking about this before the show. I think they're going to get sort of an injection of creativity whenever Verone comes back. I think they're targeting him for next weekend. You know, but I think you saw a pretty incredibly good dynamic between BWP and Vedon throughout preseason. And I know from speaking to him that he was definitely looking forward to getting off on the right foot. Unfortunately, obviously, he's been sidelined. So I think that their ship might right soon enough.
I'm concerned about the Red Bulls backline. Ronald Zubar might be.
He's just we've been talking about this for 2 years at this point.
Zubar is unbelievably bad.
Yeah.
I honestly,
he's a bad defender, and also he's just a straight up liability.
He's dangerous.
Yeah,
Exactly.
he is dangerous to the rest of the league.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to play against him because he might break your best player's leg.
And by the way, he has the two most recent crazy challenges he's had were not even red carded when they were clear red cards. And then both times they went back and suspended him after the fact.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And yeah, just positioning wise in terms of being able to mark guys, he's not good, and it killed them during the playoffs last year. They might win MLS Cup if Perenelle stays healthy. And he's been bad to start this year. Perenelle's still hurt. Miazga's gone. Gideon Ba, who was pretty solid in week 1, was a disaster in the second half against Montreal. Even Kamar Lawrence, who had a strong first season in MLS, has been pretty poor over the first couple games. He got called for a PK in the first game, and then against Montreal, there was a goal where he completely switched off and was about 10 yards behind the rest of his back line and kept a guy onside for a Montreal goal. Just across the back line, there are problems there.
Even Kleshchen, who was obviously a standout the second half of last year and did well through preseason, has been a relative no-show.
Yeah, I enjoyed Ba on Montreal's first goal. When passing the ball out of the back, he tries the ice cream scoop pass. Like, that's something that you should only do when you're within 25 yards of your opponent's goal.
At a rec league game. I mean, not.
And shockingly, it didn't work out for him.
So Red Bulls backline, they need to figure that out. I mean, if they get Perenelle back, and if it turns out that this was an aberration and he plays more like he did in week 1, they'll be okay. But you never know. I'd be a little concerned if I was a Red Bulls fan.
Yeah, Vancouver, Seattle. I think Seattle, Thomas, you mentioned, they'll
get their shit together.
I feel like they will. I think that not having Roman Torres healthy is hurting them right now, and there are rumors that they're trying to replace their DP slot that they lost with the Martins with a center midfielder, more of a number 10 creator. So. You would think with the resources Seattle has, they should be able to bring in someone pretty solid, but, still kind of working out the kinks. Jordan Morris has been kind of up and down his first couple games. So you would think that they would be able to turn that around.
And to just look at the individual results, they lose week 1 at home because they get a first half red card. I mean, I don't know how much you can really analyze that result and chalk it up to any sort of problems they might have.
And really, every team that's 0-2 has had 2 pretty difficult games to start out with.
Yeah, for Seattle, week 2 on the road, RSL lose a last gasp goal because their backup goalkeeper, kind of made a mistake trying to claim a ball in his own 6-yard box.
I mean, you're talking about losing to TFC in Montreal. These are not insane results.
Yeah, really the only big upset in the bunch is Columbus losing at home to Philly. I mean, like you said, aside from that, a lot of these teams that are 0-2 have lost tough games that you would not really raise an eyebrow at them losing.
Chris Pontius rediscovering his 2012 form.
Yeah.
I didn't
even know his left foot could do that anymore.
I'd be so happy for him if he put together a healthy season and help the Union out.
I'd like it if we talked about NYCFC now.
Probably
because you know how much I love talking about NYCFC.
You've been waiting all show for this. You were just mailing it in at the beginning with the soundboard stuff till we got to this point.
Yeah, exactly. I might start banging on it again. But
3-4-3. Let's just jump to the 3-4-3. I just love that we have a coach in MLS who.
You mean a 3-6-1, really? But
yeah,
either way,
in execution, it definitely was more of a 3-6-1 for most of the game. The wide forwards were actually further back than a couple of the midfielders. But yeah, the fact that there is an MLS coach who's willing to experiment with risky formations and change his look game to game and just bring tactical wrinkles in a league where a lot of coaches are prone to just roll out the same 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1 game in, game out.
I mean, I do maintain that, and Vieira, after the match, I guess, sort of denied this, but I do think that the three in the back is, I'm going to say, largely a byproduct of the lack of width at Yankee Stadium. I think it's one of the only venues in MLS where you get away with it. Like you said earlier, Will Johnson, I think after the game, said, yeah, if they'd played that formation at StubHub, they'd have gotten, torn apart. But I'm curious to see if he sticks with it going forward, especially on the road.
I doubt he'll use it on the road unless they're chasing a goal, but I'm interested to see what other formations he might break out. The way he's talking, he's made it seem like he's got several in the tool bag that they've experimented with throughout preseason and that they can vary from game to game. And they have the personnel to do it. They have a lot of players with versatility, a lot of central midfielders if they want to try different formations to jam as many of them on the field as possible as they did in this past game. So I'm intrigued. I'm not sure if it's going to work necessarily every match, but I'm interested in seeing the starting 11 for NYCFC an hour before kickoff every week now.
Quick question from the stream. Justin Painter asked, if the Chinese Superliga has ambitions to be a top league in the world, how come they have not yet purchased Lontan from Arizona United for $1 trillion?
They already had him, which is the real disappointment that they're letting their
Where did he play again?
Harbin Yatang.
Harbin
Yatang.
Yeah. Harbin Yatang. Is that how you
Harbin Yatang.
I like that you're looking at Seth as if he would know how to pronounce it.
Seth speaks a little bit of Cantonese.
There's a lot of talk about this big spending spree that the Chinese clubs have gone on, but this happened a while back with the purchase of Long Tan. It kind of started it all with Harbin Yatang snaring him away from.
We can't even remember.
Where I think he was with Orlando City at the time.
He was, right.
The USL version of Orlando City.
Long Tan's place in USL lore is incredible. Like he
left his mark at the.
He kicked a hole in the Citrus Bowl.
He did.
A hole in the wall, and then got suspended for the final. So to replace him, they called up Dom Dwyer, who scored like 17 goals in the championship game.
He actually scored 4 goals. The final score of that final was like 8-6 or something like that.
But the fact that Long Tan gets suspended. So Orlando's punishment is they have to call in Dom Dwyer to replace him is absurd.
That was such bullshit. Dom Dwyer at that point had already long since established that he was too good for that league, and he was playing in MLS. And they were like, "All right, we have a spot available for the final. We want to win. Like, let's call in Dwyer."
I just pulled up this article from what he did. This is a great lead. Renovations for the Florida Citrus Bowl just got more expensive last week, courtesy of Longtan. After the OCSC forward took a blow to the head from Charleston's Colin Falvey in a USL Pro semifinal, a heated exchange followed. Both players were ejected red cards. My God. On his way off the field, Tan kicked a hole in the wall.
I found a picture of it at one point, of the hole. I think the Orlando Sentinel had it.
I'll miss the final game, said Tan. Next time I'll just leave, not talk, period.
Well, it wasn't really what he said. Yeah. It was more what his foot did to the wall.
Right, yeah. My left foot anyways.
Good callback.
Where were we? NYCFC.
We were talking to NYCFC. Yeah. So one of the problems with Andrea Pirlo during his time in the league last year was that he just wasn't getting enough protection in the center midfield. I think we've established that he needs somebody doing the dirty work so he can get the ball and just spray passes around. So having 5 other midfielders, I think, is a pretty solid form of protection for him. And lo and behold, Thomas found this crazy stat from MLS this week that Andrea Pirlo led the league last week in tackles.
Sorry, go ahead.
distracted by the picture.
There it
There's a
is.
huge hole in the wall.
All right, you gotta put that on the Open Wide account.
It's a picture of the hole in the wall with Longtan walking away from it with his head bowed down, peanut style, in shame.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Please put that on the Open
Okay.
Wide
I will.
Twitter
Anyways.
account. Anyway,
But
so
back to
Pirlo
Pirlo-
led MLS in tackles one this week, which is pretty remarkable.
He had
And
more touches in the game than anybody has had in any game in MLS this year.
The remarkable thing with that is it's I guess maybe not remarkable. The interesting thing is that I think it's largely a product of that field. It's such a pinball style that I think almost everyone on the field is going to rack up higher tackling numbers than they normally do, because it's just going to be a very hectic type of game where the ball just, there's not much control, and there are a lot of battles in midfield, especially when the team is playing 6 midfielders. But still, it was impressive that Pirlo was willing to dig in and win some tackles, in addition to being pretty efficient on the ball and playing a couple of nice through balls as well.
I mean, I thought him, Shelton, Taylor, Villa, the entire midfield and Villa had several really good sort of rapid fire exchanges throughout the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like one touch, 2 touch sort of stuff.
Another thing Mix was saying after the game is that they're playing a lot more 1-2 touch soccer this year. I don't know if that, again, is situational. If Vieira says, when we're on this shoebox Yankee Stadium field, 1-2 touch, that's all we can afford. But either way, it seems to be working, and it's more entertaining to watch, and I think they're getting the most out of the players they have by playing that kind of system.
And I think it's helpful for Villa that MLS has decided to let him use his hands this year.
Come on.
That goal, like from the wide TV angle, I was just like, wow, clear as day, handball. Villa's getting a yellow card. This is coming back. Nothing.
You get away with that if you're a player of a certain caliber.
Now,
period.
if
End of story.
Once MLS has implemented instant replay, they will be able to correct these decisions. I don't know if you guys saw, this flew under the radar. FIFA approved replay trials and said that a number of member associations are willing to experiment with them, and they even outlined how replay will work with a little diagram on their website.
Give us the quick rundown.
It's for the calls you would think: goals, red cards, PKs, and missed identification.
Thank God offside isn't one of those calls.
Well, offside within the context of a goal would be,
all right.
but otherwise, no. Yeah.
So a goal on a bad offsides call could come back.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, that's the idea.
Again, if they miss an offside call, then
right, yeah,
yeah. It's so.
Or no, sorry. If they
call offsides,
then the play stops.
So
You can't-
okay, yeah.
The way they articulated it was, on goals, you can only review goals that happened, but on PKs, you can review PKs that happened and PKs that could have happened. So that's where the wiggle room is.
Even if really,
yeah, and they're also.
How do you? I mean, what do you? Do the coaches have flags or
Okay,
something?
next, good question. There is no challenge system, and this is the part I'm skeptical of. The referee, it is up to him to go, you know what, that was a borderline call. Let me go to the replay system to review this. I'm imagining someone like Geiger would just be like, nope, it was the right call. We are not looking at that again. And then when they review it, the referee has the choice of just taking the opinion of the replay official, or in the diagram, they showed a referee on the sideline holding an iPad where the referee can look at the replay himself and decide.
And or play Candy Crush Saga. I don't get it. Why wouldn't they just give the... That last part doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know.
I mean, is it like if the ref doesn't feel he has a... They're all seeing the same angles, right? Like,
yeah, it's...
Why as a referee would you ever cede control of that call to somebody?
I mean, I guess they... If you're a referee, I'm sure there are calls where you second guess yourself and you say, I think that was a PK, but I wouldn't mind a second look at that.
Sure.
Also, flew under the radar, you can now do kickoffs backwards. That blew my mind.
Really?
What?
Yeah, that was just buried in the FIFA release. Starting July 1st, you can do kickoffs backwards.
Finally, DC United gets a chance to score an own goal with their first touch of the game.
Yeah, I actually was thinking at some point someone will become the first person in soccer history to score an own goal off a kickoff.
So we should just like nab that while it's up for grabs.
Exactly.
I wonder.
Like a PDL player, I would just do it. You know, like
I wonder why that was ever a rule in the first place.
Doesn't make any sense,
Why would
really.
you have to kick the ball forward to start?
I don't know. That's a good question. The other random rule that again was buried in this press release FIFA dropped a couple weeks ago is when there is an injury on which a yellow or red card was given, the player who is injured can receive treatment on the field, and they will wait to restart the game until he is treated. So,
what if it takes like 15 minutes?
That's what I was
And
wondering.
that's also going to encourage way more injury faking.
Yeah.
Well, it's only if a card was given.
Well,
So-
but still,
so,
like, injury
yeah.
faking on occasions where they see that the player's getting a card.
Man, now, like, not even having thought of it, now I'm gonna miss the like little like tap forward and then pass back
Right.
instead of like just to. It just seems weird to just kick it back.
I
you
know. It's very strange. But yeah, the yellow card injury thing is, in theory, it's to avoid situations where a player gets fouled and then there's a yellow card and that team has to go down a man for a few minutes while he's treated as if it's a punishment.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
But of course, I'm sure someone will abuse it, so that'll be fun.
Well, thank you, Thomas, for that FIFA rules breakdown.
Anytime.
Yeah, I had not heard anything about the kicking forward, probably because it's completely inconsequential. But that's still
Plus, they
it's still
already
interesting.
allow kicking backwards in District Sports Rec League.
I mean, so just to put a tack on this Vieira thing, I commend the dude for going for it, which most coaches in MLS simply don't do. You know,
Yeah.
it may lead to a spectacular failure.
Well,
and him never getting a job in
Also-
Europe, but you know,
I actually was about to say, what kind of job security does he have? Like NYCFC could be
We'll
way
find out if
worse
they-
than they
if
were
they- yeah,
under
completely.
Price, and I feel like they'll keep him. Like
everybody assumes they will, but I'm not sold on that. You know, but part of my conversation with him was, to me, the stakes for him are way higher than they were for Christ. I mean, this is obviously, most people view this as a stopover for him on his way to an eventual job at Man City or some other.
You don't think Christ is getting the Man City job?
So I just think, you know, if he fails in MLS, he's gonna be stuck with a perception of this dude couldn't hack it in America, and you know, why would we hire him for, you know, at whatever, Arsenal, Liverpool, Newcastle. You know, I think it was rumored Newcastle before he came to the U.S. You know,
I actually hadn't thought of that. I can already see how even if he does well,
yeah, they'll be like, well, you did it in America.
Well, also,
but if you fail, you did it in America. I mean, it's just
also
what happens.
doing well in MLS is finishing, you know, 17, 13, and 4.
Right.
And
way out of a Champions League spot, or
right?
something, as we were saying.
Exactly.
There's no
yeah.
top 4, you know, like
you know, that record in the Premier League is mid-table, and I feel like people might look at that in Europe and say, "Ooh, Vieira's struggling." But yeah,
all right,
we're getting a little off track.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So he's just
we
been looking at us like he's lost for like 5 minutes. Like, let's move it on.
I'm just still contemplating how different soccer is now that you don't have to kick the ball forward on a kickoff.
So weird.
It's tough
And
to
the-
even wrap my head around.
And again, like FIFA just dropped that halfway through a press release.
Really strange.
Listing other
Yeah.
rules changes.
Yeah. So we got a couple more games that we want to cover. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't cover the Texas Derby. 27 minute
bloodbath.
Yeah. So last week we were talking about how FC Dallas.
By the way,
are they the best?
I captained Giles Barnes.
Right.
I captained him in fantasy, and I'm just like, wasn't watching the game, pick up my phone, see it's 4-0, and I'm like, all right. And he like, didn't even. He was like 3 points.
He got injured.
Oh, he did?
He got subbed out for Boniek Garcia pretty early. Yeah.
So last week we were discussing whether FC Dallas was the best team in the league. And to completely show how random and pointless it is to call any team in MLS the best, Houston, who weren't very good last year, comes and just absolutely destroys FC Dallas. It was 4-0 after 27 minutes of this game. Ends 5-0.
Including a spectacular FC Dallas own goal. Who was it? Hedges?
I've been pushing Hedges for the national team for
like,
so long, and then he does that.
Just clinical bottom left corner of the goal from like 16 out.
Under very little pressure.
Exactly. Yeah. Those are the toughest ones to finish.
It was so slow.
Toughest own goals to finish. There's no offensive player anywhere around you. No pressure. My favorite own goals, by the way, like the Hedges ones, are the ones where the player like crumbles to the ground before the ball's even in the goal. It's just like
the helplessness of it all. Once it leaves your feet.
Hedges looked very angry at Jesse Gonzalez, which I'm not sure I buy.
That's just like when you're playing football with your friends and you drop a football and you look at your hands. Like they betrayed you or something, It's like, no.
My favorite own goal is still the Gareth Bale face own goal, but
yeah, it's a tough one to beat.
If you haven't seen it, give it a Google.
So I think obviously some encouraging signs for Houston, who as I mentioned were pretty average to below average last year,
and still getting nothing out of Kubo Torres.
Jesus, that is a crazy storyline.
I mean, that would be a dark horse candidate for worst MLS signing ever.
Yeah, how much are they paying him?
I mean, I believe he's on a DP salary.
I think he's up around $1 million. Let's see.
Yeah, they've been going with Will Bruin up top, and it's hard to argue with it. He's been putting up the numbers, and in their system that they've got Christian Maidana now to play beneath a lone striker. They've pushed Giles Barnes out wide, but he's another option there.
And also,
he's only on $425,000.
Okay, so he's max salary or low level DP or TAM, a TAM player perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting that the Dynamo have looked so sharp, largely because of Andrew Wenger, who suddenly is looking like the Andrew Wenger from the summer of 2014, when for a couple months he finally seemed to be putting it together.
Yeah, it probably would help him if they ever settle on a position for him. He's again at midfield.
Right.
Andrew Wenger had one of my favorite own goals, but favorite just crappy plays last year.
When he just dribble out of bounds.
Yeah.
Just sprinted out of bounds over the end line with the ball.
Yeah.
So incredible.
That more so than any sequence I've ever seen on a soccer field looked like it was out of FIFA.
Yeah, it was just the Philadelphia Union and like in a little tasty nugget, their entire season.
They did win that game.
Yeah.
Against DC United. Zach Pfeffer. Stoppage time goal.
Searching Andrew Wenger.Jeff, and here it is.
But yeah, the thing with FC Dallas that's, I guess, a little concerning is how vulnerable the backline looked. They kind of reshaped that unit. They've got Figueroa at left back. They're starting Walker Zimmerman. Pablo is not paying attention.
Look at it. He just... here he comes. Here he comes. And there he goes. Anyways.
But yeah, Atiba Harris at right back. Kind of a unconventional unit. They actually only had one starter from their standard back four last season when they had Zach Lloyd, Ryan Hollingshead, and Javon Watson starting alongside Matt Hedges. So perhaps it's been a under the radar Javon Watson.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's an under the radar storyline that FC Dallas reshaped what was a pretty successful defensive unit, and that unit completely collapsed against the Dynamo, and maybe they should look at getting Zach Lloyd and Ryan Hollingshead back in the fold.
Yeah, so I think we should end with the Galaxy. As we mentioned, they beat DC United pretty handily in their first game, but per new MLS rules, they only get 2 points for that. Slightly less.
I don't think that's a real rule.
Slightly less encouraging outing as they go down 1-0 to Colorado from a stoppage time winner from Little Marco Papa. Again, I think you see some of these issues with the Galaxy cropping up in terms of their midfield pairing with Steven Gerrard and Nigel de Jong. I think Giassi Zardes looked pretty bad.
Yeah, I saw Zardes' passing chart, and it looked like a bloodbath. Literally, it was just all red from the incomplete passes.
Yeah, he's really struggling right now, and they were missing Gio dos Santos. Keane was even missing easy chances. So things are definitely a little shaky to start the season right now in LA.
The situation with Zardes, it was, I believe, pretty widely reported that they were looking to sell him during the offseason and then use the allocation money from that transfer to keep Omar. And basically the fact that they couldn't find a suitor for Zardes forced the move to get rid of Omar. And, it's still pretty early, but that's looking like maybe it wasn't the greatest development for LA, considering the form Omar has been in Liga MX so far and how much it looks like Zardes has regressed over the last 6 months or so.
I think it is always a little bit disappointing for U.S. national team supporters when a young player emerges as a potential star in the making for club and country. And I think with Zardes, his 2014 season was definitely that. He was such a breakout year. He scored a bunch of goals, and he was still in his age 21 or 22 season. And I think a lot of people thought that this might be the answer at forward, someone who's really going to, kind of challenge Josie as a starter for the national team. And last year in 2015, he actually led the U.S. national team in appearances. But when you see him play, you can just really see the limitations in his game a lot more now than I feel like even you could a couple years ago. You just
first touch of a blacksmith.
First touch of a blacksmith. I think his finishing is suspect for sure. There are opportunities that he misses that you feel like 99% of the players in the league could finish.
I feel like at least once a game, there's just a sequence in the final third where you can't believe what happened. Where he'll just cross the ball out of bounds for no reason.
Out of bounds cross, out of control run over the goal, over the end line happens a lot, or just like a poor finish from, we'll say 4 to 5 yards out.
And do you think that the fact that he was fast tracked to the national team as a starter played a part in him losing confidence, perhaps the same way that Klinsmann forced Ventura Alvarado into the starting lineup, and he has now been a complete shell of a decent soccer player since last summer's Gold Cup?
Or to a lesser extent, Julian Green, too.
Yep. Yeah, it seems like pretty much every time Klinsmann, I mean, if there's an example that refutes this, I'm trying to think of one, but more or less every time he tries to rush in a young star in the making to kind of groom someone, it ends up backfiring a bit.
Yeah. And Zardes, he just seems like another in the long line of American players who just has the physical tools, but not the technical side of his game to really become an elite level player.
Right. And that's something to watch as we go toward the qualifiers later this month in the Copa America in the summer. Klinsmann has talked a lot about wanting to play more proactive soccer. And yeah, I feel like if he continues to roll with a struggling Jossie Zardes who has limited technical ability and keep someone like a Darlington Nagbe on the bench, maybe you question his commitment to the philosophy that he seemingly has been promoting over his tenure as national team coach.
Or Lee Win, who at various points on Saturday looked like the only competent player on the field during the Revs DC United game.
Right. And Klinsmann has been pretty committed to Zardes as a starter since the Gold Cup. And I wonder if his early season form is enough to get Lee Win into the starting lineup, or perhaps Nagbe. Win's probably the more likely one, considering how impressive he was in the January camp friendlies. But that'll definitely be something to watch in these two games against Guatemala later this month.
Yeah, we should have some national team stuff to talk about next week, which might be helpful because DC United's playing Colorado on, on Sunday. We don't know how much we can squeeze out of that one.
God.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Dreams we were wanting.